Islam is not something that one can ignore in our politics and in our activism. And the big question that we also need to ask is, what kind of Islam are we dealing with? Because to think of the Muslim community as an homogeneous group of people is highly incorrect, because Muslims have a history of having fused their own cultures with the understanding of Islam. Now, we find that the majority of Muslims in Orthodox Islam would agree that homosexuality is punishable, it's unnatural, punishable by death. All the schools of thought in Islam agree that the punishment is death. They only differ in how the person should be killed. Now, this is an interpretation that has been there for more than 1,000 years, and there has no research been done or even probing into why that system is there. There's no Quranic base for the system, there is no Hadith base for the system, which is the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And so I've decided to do my own research on the issue, and I find that there are a lot of progressive Muslim scholars that agree with my view that the story of Sodom and Gomorrah has been used as a blanket condemnation for homosexuality. Yet we find that when you really look at the history of Sodom and Gomorrah, there was not just homosexual atrocities that were committed where men became the victims of rape, but also many other things like temple prostitution, xenophobia, and using sex for power. It's also important when we work with this issue to understand that there are different approaches that people have within the Muslim world. There are very orthodox Islamic approaches, progressive Islamic approaches, and some alternative approaches. The other thing that's also very important is movement building, to work with many different types of or sectors. For example, your LGBT, your human rights sector, other faiths that are also sensitive to the issue. Progressive religious leaders, queer Muslim organizations, feminists, because feminists within Islam, they understand the plight of queer Muslims, for example, because we both suffer under patriarchy, and also to work with policymakers. I think religion has to reform. I think that perhaps one of the principles of Islam, which is called ijtihad, independent reasoning, that scholars in the between the 9th and 7th century has used to formulate Sharia laws. We've lost that principle, so Muslims have stopped thinking. So I don't think that there's necessarily a problem with Islam, but perhaps a problem with the interpretation of Islam.